Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lecture 4D. In this particular part of Lecture 4, we are going to be looking a little bit deeper into molecular orbital theory and start incorporating p-orbitals. So before we do that, we want to take a look at some of the MO theory of Group 1 and Group 2 metals, just to knock them out with one big shot, and then we'll focus on some of the other elements in the p block on the periodic table. Now, as we build up through the periodic table, we get the exact same situation happening for all core electrons, regardless of where the element is. When you look at core electrons as opposed to valence electrons, your core electrons fill in the exact same number of bonding orbitals as they do anti-bonding orbitals. And so they have no net effect on the bonding, because if you looked at the bond order for core electrons, you would end up with a bond order of 0 based on core electrons only. So we're going to focus only on the valence electrons, which is something we have always said when looking at bonding, is that only the valence electrons are involved in bonding, and this also holds true in molecular orbital theory. Now, if we look at our Group 1 and Group 2 metals, with Group 1 metals, so your alkali metals, they all have an NS1 configuration where N is the period number. So your hydrogen has a 1s1, lithium has a 2s1, sodium has a 3s1, and it goes down from there. So anytime you make a diatomic molecule from one of those group 1A elements, the molecular orbital diagram is going to look exactly the same as the one for hydrogen, where you're going to have a sigma bond between the s orbitals. You're going to have 2 electrons in the sigma s orbital, and there's going to be no electrons in the sigma star s orbital. And you're going to end up with a bond order of 1. Similarly, for your alkaline earth metals, so your group 2 metals, they have an NS2 configuration similar to helium. And so they end up filling the exact same number of s orbitals, s bonding orbitals as s anti-bonding orbitals, and they cancel out, and you end up with no bond. And so there are no M2 diatomic molecules for your group 2 metals. Now, as you go down Group 1, one of the things that we see is that the diatomic bond length increases and the bond dissociation energy decreases. Now, this has a number of reasons. As the volume of that s orbital increases, so we know that the s orbitals get larger, your atomic radius becomes larger, and that electron density decreases as you start going out. If you think about electron density, it's still just one electron in each of those atomic orbitals, or 2 electrons in each of the molecular orbitals. And so those 2 electrons have to fill more and more volume, and so you get less and less electron density. If you look just from a molecular orbital standpoint, you have a much lower probability density involved in the overlap, and so you don't get as strong a bond. And it turns out, when you look at calculated bond orders based on orbital overlap, so based on quantum mechanics as opposed to just the bond order calculation that we have, you do see that the orbital overlap decreases, and you get less of a bond strength between those 2 atoms as you go down in Group 1. So here for Li2, just as an example, for Li2, where you have a 2s1 electron configuration here and here for the atoms, we have an Li2 here, so we have a sigma 2s star, and our 2 electrons go into the bonding, and we have a single bond between an Li2 molecule. If we look at something like beryllium from group 2, it's going to look just like helium does. 2 electrons in the 2s, it has a 2s2 electron configuration, 2s2 here, and for beryllium you have sigma 2s star. Your bond order is going to end up at 0, just like you would for helium-2. Okay, now let's bring in the p-orbitals. So the p-orbitals are quite a bit more complex, mainly because they have very directional orientation and different orientations. And so we always have to think about how p-orbitals can overlap. And this starts to occur once we get to element number 5, or boron. So the 3 p-orbitals that occupy the p subshell are all different orientations with the exact same energy. We call them degenerate because they have the same energy. Now, the different orientations that we have, the px, the py, and the pz, leads to different types of bonding interactions between two atoms. So we can have a sigma bonding MO involving P's or also involving S's in a couple of different ways in period 2. And we have to consider all of these when looking at elements in period 2. So here we can get a sigma bond between two s orbitals. You can see they have a single point of overlap. You can have a sigma bond form between an s orbital of one atom and the p orbital of another atom. And so you can see they still have one point of overlap, and the sigma bond or the s orbital here is overlapping with just one of the lobes on the p orbital. So directionally it's pointing at that s, and so that forms a sigma bond. Or if you have two atoms where you have the p orbitals pointing at each other, you get a p-p overlap. It's still overlapping in only one spot, and so that is still a sigma bond interaction. So let's look at the 2pz here, and any of the pz's, but we're going to focus on the period 2's here. So 2pz. So your 2pz, by definition, lie along the axis that forms the highest order axis of rotation. And so we call that, we just by definition define that as the z-axis, and so the p orbital that lies on that axis would be the pz. So those two p orbitals point at each other. So they will have a sigma interaction, just like we saw on that previous slide. So it's going to look something like this. So even though I know these slides say px, this is from a different book who did not follow the convention that the z-axis is always going to be along the axis of rotation. So imagine that these just say z. So we'd have a 2pz orbital here, a 2pz orbital here. They're going to point at each other. We're going to have an additive interaction and a subtractive interaction. So our additive interaction would be here, plus, and our subtractive interaction would be up here. In the additive interaction, the area where they overlap is going to become much more dense in between and lead to our bonding orbital. So we get a sigma 2p. And then in the areas where they subtract, and I can't erase things there, where they subtract, we're going to get something that looks like this here, where when they're out of phase, you can think of subtraction as addition out of phase. They're going to create a node where they have canceled each other out for the wave functions. And so you get an anti-bonding interaction there, and you do have that node where there is a place where there is zero probability of an electron existing. Very similar to s orbital overlap. Now, 2py's and the 2px's, they're a little bit different. These orbitals lie side by side, so they will have a pi interaction because they will overlap in two different spots. Generally, a pi interaction is higher than the sigma interaction. However, that is not always the case, and we'll take a look to see when that happens, and we'll also explore why it happens. So sigma interactions between the 2pz's and the pi interactions between 2py and 2px do swap spots as far as what's higher in energy and what's lower. And what makes that dependent is mixing between the s orbitals and the p, again, that's pz orbitals, not the px. So let's just look at the pi bondings for now. So again, this would be a 2px here. So you have a 2px, a 2px. They can overlap additively. So these two orbitals would add together the two lobes, and so you would have a larger phase for that part of the lobe and larger phase for this part of the lobe, where you have very additive interactions in between. That's our bonding, lower in energy. Or as you go up in energy, your subtractive interaction or an additive out of phase interaction, again, get this node here. So you do create that anti-bonding. So this is a pi 2p. This is a pi star 2p. Down here, this is just two p orbitals, again, interacting. They interact the exact same way, just along a different axis, but they do have 2 points of overlap, one here between the red and again here between the blue, and you have your anti-bonding here and your bonding here. The difference between these two sets of orbitals is that they are 90 degrees from each other.